Hi bitches, it's Shaaba, welcome back to my channel and thank you for clicking on another video. Shout out to my nails, which is serving raspberry lemonade with my hair today and I'm very pleased about it. Welcome back to what, as you're probably aware, is a weekly series here where we go fishing for a-holes. That's right, it's that Monday where we take a look at the subreddit Am I the Arsehole? We listen to other people's problems because one, it's a bit of juicy drama, a bit of fun innit? Two, we can hopefully help some people out, and three, we can expand our own mindsets along the way. So, let's not waste time. Should we just dive right in to the a-holes? Let's see. Am I the asshole for making fun of my brother and joking about his manhood? The term manhood is so weird. I've literally just thought about that now. I don't like it. I'm a 36-year-old man. I've got an older brother, M, aged 38. He's got twin daughters who are 13. He's a single dad. His wife, the twins' mum, passed away 5 years ago. M is a very involved dad, which I think is great. For the twins' birthday, he surprised them with Taylor Swift Eras tour tickets. I'm so jealous. I wish I was in the States and able to get my hands on Eras tour tickets. They went to the show last night, of course, because the twins are still young. Em went with them, and of course the girls were really excited, so they took a lot of pictures and videos. Em shared some of the pictures. I jokingly commented, "Damn Em, looks like someone took your man card last night, lol." Suddenly my phone blows up with text from Em calling me the biggest asshole and told me that I need to learn to grow up. It was honestly a joke. So, am I the asshole? You're the asshole. I'm sorry you're the asshole. I'm not sorry. You are the asshole. You've explained it yourself. You're impressed with Em. He's a very involved dad. Maybe he likes Taylor Swift, maybe he doesn't. Even if he was the one going to Taylor Swift without the kids, that's an okay thing for him to do. It has nothing to do with his manhood. And I'm fed up because it's 2023 and people like OP are still here trying to make it sound somewhat significant that the labels of your gender must correlate to what we like and dislike as people. Like, no. As Em said, babe, grow up. And really, it's not OP's fault. He's been brought up and conditioned to be like, oh, you're going to a Taylor Swift concert? Rah, 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 rah. Fine. All right, if that's what society's done to you. But it's still your problem. And it's your job now, babe, to unlearn, as Em is teaching you, to not do these things and put that on a public forum. You're the arsehole, it was just a joke. It's the calling card of the arsehole. Tell us how insulting your brother is funny. What is the punchline? I don't get it either. Great. Woohoo. Odd how it's just a joke, so you can't be upset, and it's not, it's just a joke, so I should apologise. I agree with the sentiment, but I take it that one step further. It's odd to me how it's just a joke, so you can't be upset, and not, it's just a joke, so I shouldn't have said it in the first place. Let's move on. Am I the asshole for not having a problem with my daughter's age gap relationship? Hang on, before we go into this, Jamie and I, we talk about our kids, we talk about relationships, we talk about prejudice facing relationships. We're actually on a TV show called Bride and Prejudice. Obviously we've had some prejudice towards our relationship as a brown, previously religious, cultural person and a white trans man, but another couple on the show was also a couple with an age gap. There were many different couples facing different kinds of prejudice. I thought it was a really interesting concept. I learned a lot. As I said, we're both very open-minded, but the one thing that I seem to have a problem with that makes me hesitate is the idea of a huge age gap relationship. I will read on. I still want to know the details of this past the title. My point is, it's an interesting one, and it's one that I have a lot of bias towards as well, so I need to expand my mindset. Let's see. I have 3 daughters, 24, 22, and 19 years old. The oldest 2 never gave me much trouble, but the youngest, Sarah, let's say Sarah, has always been difficult. She has a volatile personality. She got into a lot of trouble in her teenage years for lying, sneaking out, and general disobedience and disrespect. See, now that's interesting because that paints Sarah in a really bad light. But honestly, my people who raised me could have said the same thing about me. I'm sure did say the same thing. I did lie, I did sneak out, I did generally disobey and disrespect them. But I know that I wasn't a bad person for doing so. I was just living in conditions that were not reasonable. So, you know, there's 3 sides to every coin. Yours, theirs, and the truth, mama. Recently, it came to light that she's dating a man nearly 20 years older, Thomas, 37. So Thomas is a 37-year-old man and Sarah is a 19-year-old woman. Okay, so not quite 20 years. Okay. When I first heard, I assumed he was a lowlife who was using her, and my wife and I wanted the relationship to end immediately. However, based on how volatile and stubborn Sarah is, when it comes to getting her way, we knew we couldn't just forbid her, so we allowed her to bring him over for dinner so we could at least meet him and try to size him up. Okay, you know what? You don't sound like a butthole parent. That's a very reasonable thing to do, I think. You're allowing her to still be in a relationship. You're recognizing that she is an adult and this is her choice, but you want to keep her safe. That's exactly what I would have done. You can't forbid something you have no right to. And also, from experience, doing that just causes people to double down and go into whatever it is that you're concerned about further. After meeting him, I've realised he's not actually a creep, just a moron. Oh dear. Throughout the dinner, he talked a lot about Ninja Turtles and about pro wrestling, which appeared to be his only interests. I mean, that doesn't make him a moron. He has no real achievements in his life, simply working various dead-end minimum wage jobs, and told us that his lifelong ambition is to one day own a fireworks stand. I agree with what this parent is saying in the approach so far, but I do think it's a bit mean to be like, oh, he has no ambition. I no longer am worried about the relationship because I simply don't believe that Thomas is capable of manipulating or taking advantage of Sarah, and if anything, I'm more worried about her taking advantage of him, as he seems to be shockingly naive and childlike for someone who's nearly 40. My wife, on the other hand, is mad because I won't back her up and thinks that I'm condoning my daughter throwing away her future. I said to my wife that Sarah's future is in her own hands. Thomas is much nicer and more likeable than almost every other guy that Sarah's brought home before, and all things considered, the situation is nowhere near as bad as we'd first assumed. But my wife says I'm an arsehole for not backing her up and not protecting her like a father should. So, I want to know, am I the arsehole? Ooh, interesting. All of my points beforehand stand about being concerned, but honestly, I can't see myself doing anything different to OP. So I'm going to go ahead and say no, you're not the arsehole. I'm trying to think of anything that you could have done differently. All you could have done is be like, no, I forbid you to be together, and all that would have done is make Sarah go, well, I'm going to be with him more. Honestly, could really be that she's only in this relationship to get back to you. That's definitely something that 19-year-old rebellious Shaaba, who was going through a lot of troublesome things, would have flown by my mind. I never actually did it. All my relationships were secret. But if I was so inclined, I can see that being a reasonable justification. What else could you have done? I don't understand. What does your wife want from you? What does she want? I think there's a difference as well between having your own opinions, because what I'm hearing is maybe that your wife wants you to say, and it seems like you do have the same opinion, age gap relationships of this much, especially when your child is 19. You know, it'd be different if it was a 30-year-old going out with a 50-year-old. Totally different scenario. If it's a 50-year-old going out with a 70-year-old, as I said, totally different scenario. But at that age, my alarm bells as a parent would ring. I'd be like, oh, what is happening? How did they get together? How did they find each other? What does he want from this relationship? What does she want from this relationship? And I'm assuming you voiced those concerns to your wife, because I would expect to, behind closed doors, just you two as parents having a chat to be like, oh, I'm a little bit concerned about this. But then your strategy with Sarah to be, well, I'm here for you, babe. I'm here to support you. Do I like it? Not particularly, but this is what you want to do and this is your life. And so, hi, just making sure you're safe, you know? I don't get what the wife wants from you otherwise. Not the arsehole. You can't do anything about her, and honestly, your disapproval might push her further into the relationship. Not the arsehole. As a mum, I'd be very concerned about a big age gap. However, beside locking your child in the basement, there's not much you can do besides saying that you're concerned about the age gap. You want her to come to you when and if there's any issues directly and quickly, so keep the lines of communication open. I agree, this is good parenting. And I think maybe wife is just concerned and displacing her anger and feeling a bit helpless, and it's like, well, what can we do? You do something, father, you do something. So yeah, I get it, but you're not the asshole. These two have been very clear cut. Normally when this happens, the next one is very grey as opposed to black and white. Let's see. Would I be the asshole for not taking in my brother's kid? I love the would I be the assholes in particular, because like, you haven't made a decision yet. Let's see. I am a 32-year-old woman. I've got 2 daughters, 6 and 3. Both my husband and I have very lucrative degrees, so I've been able to cut down hours to focus on being a family and still make a good living. I love being a mum. I've always dreamt of being one. I put a lot of effort into being the best mum I can. People tend to compliment me on aspects of my parenting or how independent and responsible my 6-year-old is. I also have a younger brother who's 20. He got a girl pregnant 8-ish months ago. My whole family, except me, is pro-life. He convinced the girl to keep the baby, and as she didn't want to raise it, he made her sign away parental rights and promised to take care of the kid. Oh my goodness. So it sounds like the girlfriend didn't want to have the baby. He's coerced her into making that happen, and because she didn't want to raise it, has now been like, okay, well, legally, you can have nothing to do with this baby. I'm going to take on responsibility, says a brother. My whole family congratulated him on making the right choice. I advised him to rethink, but it's his choice in the end. A couple of weeks ago at family function, I think what they're meant to say here is we were talking about planning on trying for our 3rd kid soon, and we'll probably stop there as we only want 3 kids. My brother later called and asked if he could drop by my house because he wanted to discuss something. I can see where this is going. I agreed. Today he showed up with my parents, and between the 3 of them told me that they had this great idea about how I should take my brother's kid. They explained it as if they were doing me a favour because they knew I wanted a 3rd kid and I could just take him in without going through a 3rd pregnancy. They also explained how my brother wanted to finish his degree and couldn't do that whilst raising a child, so this was the best alternative for both of us. My heart is actually beating so fast right now. This is like such a big question. Okay, let's unpack a little bit. So, you are a mum. You are very settled into your life. You and husband have 2 children. You're wanting a 3rd. Your brother has a baby on the way. 1 month until delivery. The shipping time is 1 month. He's made his girlfriend keep the baby, which is instant big red flags for me. You can't do that. Her body, her choice. Oh my goodness. Putting that to one side, he then said, if you don't want to raise the baby, fine, legally, let this baby be mine. I don't want you to have any rights over this baby then. I promise to look after this kid. That's what's happened. He's taken on those legal rights and made it so that the girlfriend cannot ask for that back. So he's made a huge commitment there to this child, to raise this child. That's on him. And also, it sounds like on the parents as well, because reading between the lines here, the parents are also very pro-life. The parents have said that it's a good idea to keep it. The parents have come with him now to ask you this question. I think we can't underestimate the parents' involvement here. I'm being assumptive, but we have to consider that being a factor as well. But my point is, the three of them collectively have decided that they are going to commit to this baby. Yes, you want a baby, and you've brought this up, and I can see how timing-wise he's like, oh, well, maybe this could work out. I don't think it's a bad thing for him to ask the question. I think what he's done up to this point is bad, because you can't force someone else to do something with their body that they don't want to do and then take on that responsibility. Oh my gosh, I can see so many complications potentially arising. What if the biological mum does want to be involved in this child's life? What if your brother, after he finishes his degree, decides that he wants to be involved in this child's life? What if your husband doesn't like the idea of it? Like, there's so many things that make this a very delicate situation. In one way, I'm like, oh, this is wonderful. You want another kid? Here is a gorgeous little kid that's coming into the world that needs love. This is a fantastic match, but only if it works for all of you. And so you have to have big conversations now with your husband. You have to think about the impact that's going to have on your kids as well, because to some people it's a really big deal to have their kids biologically related to each other, and you know nothing about this woman, his girlfriend. There's a lot to think about. So my point is, I'm just trying to think about the balance, the onus. Was this an okay thing to do? It's totally not okay of what the brother has done to force this woman to have a child up to 8 months of pregnancy right now when she didn't want to, and to then commit to it and now be sort of like pushing off that responsibility. At the same time, I don't think it's wrong for him to ask the question, because this is absolutely an option that you could take on and that could be beneficial. If you are okay with it, it could work out really well. If not, though, he can't be mad, because this isn't something to take lightly. So I think we need to read on to see how he responds afterwards. I told him I didn't know and that I needed more time to think about it, but that I didn't feel comfortable in the position I was being put in, because raising a kid is not something to be taken lightly. I'm pretty sure I just used the words taken lightly. They were disappointed in my answer, and after they left, the three of them separately sent me walls of texts telling me to make the right choice and not deny love to a kid, because I am being selfish. Lord, no. This changes everything to me. Can I just say I'm feeling really bad? I actually think this is the trickiest "Am I the arsehole" post I've ever seen. I'm not meaning to be dramatic. I genuinely don't I feel so bad for OP and for this situation, because this is a really difficult position to be put in. The reason that I feel that this changes everything is they are being very manipulative, just like they were to the mum, and it might be that the parents are manipulating the son, who is therefore manipulating the girlfriend, or it could be that the three of them together are manipulating the girlfriend. Either way, there's a very heavy manipulation going on, and now they're manipulating you into thinking that this is a good thing for you and you must do it. No. You haven't even said your decision yet, but that is not okay. And what that means to me is, not only is this process going to be difficult, if you do then decide to take on the child, assuming that your husband's okay with it, that your kids are going to be okay with it, what does that mean going forward? They're clearly not being reasonable and thinking about the well-being of their loved ones now, so what's to say that they're going to in the future? This would make me feel really uneasy about how that co-parenting with the brother is going to go going forward, and with the parents. So much of me is just like, you have decided to take that on. If that means that you can't finish your degree, that's something that you should have thought about when you committed to it. When one, you got your girlfriend pregnant, and two, when you didn't allow her to make her own choices, and three, when you further legally enforced that she could therefore have nothing to do with it because you were going to take on that responsibility. Well, continue with your responsibility then. That is on you. I don't feel bad. And if the parents are feeling bad, then they can look after the child. You know, like, you don't have to take on the baby and not have your third child specifically as your own. You could help by babysitting. You could help by being there as a presence and a really supportive auntie whilst the child lives with the parents and with the brother. You don't have to take on the child as your own to not be being selfish. I feel like I'm getting a headache. This is actually so tricky. Let's read on. I don't feel comfortable raising my brother's kid, but I can't explain a non-selfish reason why I don't want to. I like having biological kids. I feel one of our kids being actually my brother's kid would add such a complex family dynamic, one that I don't feel ready to face, and somehow I don't feel it's fair. Yes, you're right, it is selfish to say in this instance that you would rather have your biological kid, and there's no other reason for wanting that apart from the fact that you want it to be your own biology. But you know what? It's your family, and if you want to be selfish in that way, you're okay to. He was being selfish in making that decision for him and not thinking of the girlfriend or of the child, but just of his views. When it comes to protecting your loved ones, selfish doesn't need to mean bad. And you're right, there is a much higher complex family dynamic, one that you can't even predict. There's the one that you can predict now, and how you settle that with your children and your husband. Again, this is all providing that he's on board, right? But there's an extra family complex dynamics of afterwards who legally looks after the child, even if it's not just on a legal sense, but from a moral sense. If the girlfriend in 10, however many years down the line, wants to know who their child is, or if the brother then wants to reclaim some sort of connection, this is very tricky. It's so easy to get all the pats on the back for saving a kid's life when you're not going to be the one to take responsibility in the end. I'm helping perpetuate a family dynamic I feel has been going on for ages. When I told my husband, he told me they're absolutely mental and should respect my reasons for not wanting to do something like this, but I still feel guilty because I am capable of taking care of the kid, and if I don't step up, I don't know what the fate of that kid will be. Am I the asshole? Oh my goodness, no. You are not the asshole. As tricky as the situation is, I would hate for OP here to think that they were the asshole. I think if you are able to be like, you know what, I'm going to take this kid into my life, amazing. Good for you. Honestly, if the parents and the brother reacted nicely about it, I would have felt so much better about this whole situation. Literally because of the family input and the way that they're communicating, I wouldn't feel comfortable. And it's not your responsibility to think about the fate of that child because it's not your child. You don't need to then totally disrupt your nuclear family dynamic or feel selfish about it because it's not for you. That's not your problem. Personally, I feel like if you're feeling the guilt of that, there is no difference between feeling guilty for that and feeling guilty for every single child that is out for adoption in the world, because you could get a flyer telling you, hey, have you considered adoption? And if you say no, the fate of that child will be something that you can't provide, and that's okay because you need to make your own decisions. I also want to put on the record, I'm super pro adoption. I'm actually planning to adopt in the future. I've had conversations even before I met Jamie. I knew I wanted to ideally have some biological kids, but absolutely adopt as well. The reason I'm saying that is I'm trying to battle my bias to see if there is any bias. I don't think I'm biased towards the situation. I'm honestly just shocked because this is such a tricky situation to be in. Let's see what other people have to say. And what about the husband? What if he wants a child to be biologically related to him? What then, huh? They are way entitled, all of them. I agree, but also what if you want to be biologically related yourself? What if you want the kids to be biologically related to each other? Also, there's a good chance that OP's brother will ask for the child back in the future when and if he's settled, or he finds a next girl he wants to impress about how responsible he is. Quite possibly. It sounds like your brother's been really irresponsible now, and putting demands on is not a mature way to deal with this, so I wouldn't feel comfortable or safe or trust that your brother would do the right thing and allow you to be that family unit when he's finished his degree going forward. Also, the other very important thing to point out in this case is you're 32. It could be that you say you do decide to take on this child and you raise the child as your own. When the child is 5, 6, 10, whatever, the brother absolutely might ask for that child back, and if you wanted a family with 3 kids, you are now probably not in a position to have children in your own way, unless you've frozen your eggs beforehand, because Mother Nature doesn't take too kindly to women in their late 30s when it comes to conception. So that's another thing to think about too. If you really want 3 kids, this doesn't seem like a surefire way that you will have a 3rd child. It sounds like it really could be a temporary measure, which your brother, their parents, your parents, or the girlfriend could easily come in and swoop in any moment. Even if it's not legally from the girlfriend's side, morally, your child would be entitled to that. So tricky. Not the arsehole. As a mum with my youngest adopted, you do not jump into adoption lightly. Your reason of it adding complexity to family dynamics is more than enough reason, and I promise you it will. You're allowed to feel selfish for keeping your family unit as it is, and for not wanting to bail your brother out. If your parent thinks it's so great, they can do it. Exactly that. Or he can do a traditional adoption. However, I'd say if baby mama doesn't realise he isn't going to be raising the baby, maybe that needs to come to light. Then she can pick an adoptive family that she approves of. I agree. Does the girlfriend even know about this? Because you, brother, have legally signed on, legally promised to look after this child. Oh my goodness. I need to go have a chat with my friends about this one. This is wild. The thing that I feel saddest about in this situation is seeing how coercive and horrible and manipulative this family has been. I don't see a future now with how they've reacted where it's healthy for OP to keep that family in their lives. I feel so sad for this child and for the fate of this child, whether they stay in the family or not. That's not nice for a child who isn't wanted, right? If the child isn't wanted, they're not going to feel great growing up. It's just so sad if the child remains within this family, and then I feel bad if you decide to have that 3rd biological child of your own with how that child is going to be treated by your family, because there will be a level of unconscious resentment at the very least, let alone a potential conscious resentment, that that child was unnecessary in the eyes of the brother and the parents. Sometimes there are things that are said, that are conversations that happen, that are totally irreparable, and I feel like this falls into one of those contexts. I hope I'm wrong. I wish you the best, my love, with whatever it is that does happen. Alright, friends, I think we're definitely going to wrap it up there. If you'd like to share your thoughts, I would love to hear what you have to say. Please feel free to pop downstairs in the comment section and let me know. If you enjoyed this video, do give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you'd like to see more, and I'll catch you next time with another video. Be kind and have a great day. Bye.